Good morning, everyone, and welcome to A Moment of Hope with Upward Transitions. I'm Carla Stinnett, and we are very excited today to have Ian Apfelbaum with us he's a housing specialist at City Care, which is the night shelter here, and much more. We're going to learn more about their programs today. Let me get Ian here onto the screen with us. Hi, Ian.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We're so happy and appreciate you being here with us today and to share more information about City Care.
Yeah.
I continue to learn things every day about City Care, and we do work closely with City Care as a partner agency. So just start us telling us about the mission of City Care and how it began.
Yeah, City Care began originally as just a breakfast that a group of members of a church started together when they saw a need in the community to feed some of our community. As we grew, we started to realize that there were more needs within the community. And really our goal of City Care is to meet every person with compassion and grace at the level that they're at. We see the intrinsic value in every person, and we want to show them love and compassion to help them out of whatever situation they're in, and help them get their lives restored and back to where they want their lives to be. We have quite a few different programs within City Care. First being our homeless services, which is the night shelter, as well as a few other things that we're doing, such as mobile outreach and engagement. We have Whiz Kids, which is a faith-based organization that gets tutors from different church organizations to come into underserved communities and help those children and be mentors for those kids, as well as we also have permanent supportive housing and throughout the city to help folks as they are transitioning out of homelessness, to help them continue to have services and support to keep them on their feet and help them continue to grow.
Yeah, I was just right before we went live today, you were telling me about how many housing units that you actually have.
We have about 150 dwellings, and that includes a few houses as well as the Pershing Center, which is a permanent supportive apartment complex that is kind of a community of folks that come together and that they work together to help them get out of the situation that they were in of homelessness or whatever that may be.
Yeah. And throughout this COVID-19, through the pandemic, how did that impact the way that you serve your clients?
Yeah, so the night shelter is kind of in a unique scenario. We opened in April of 2021, so right in the middle of the pandemic. So as we were building the building, we made a lot of decisions, and a lot of policies were able to be built as we opened to help us, one, control the spread of COVID, but also protect our staff and our guests that are coming into the shelter. So we upgraded our HVAC system to be able to filter the air within a few minutes, so that there was less chance of that. We added lots of UV lights into the building to kill the virus, but we also required masks, and we had to implement some form of social distancing as much as one can in a building with 150 folks in it every night. As well as we have a quiet room that we can put people into if they were experiencing any sort of symptoms, as well as partnering with different organizations throughout the city to help us isolate if necessary, get them hotel rooms or whatever that may be, to keep the spread from happening. But really, we haven't had the chance to see what running the shelter would be like in an environment that didn't have COVID-19 so far. So it's just kind of become the reality of the way we run.
Yeah. So is 150 beds generally your maximum per night?
Yes, we have 98 male beds and 24 female beds. And then we have 4 family suites that can house realistically up to probably like 5 or 6 people in them. And that's a separate space for the families to be able to come into with a sense of normalcy. They've got their own kitchen and dining room to spend time in, as well as a place to do their own laundry, which is a different environment from what most shelters have for families. And we want to give them that sense of normalcy so they have a little bit of autonomy in their lives. But yeah, we have just under 150 people in our building every night, but we've been running at capacity since the 6th day we opened. And usually it's over capacity, which can mean putting people on cots in the back hallway or something like that. But we have been full since basically the day we opened.
Yeah. And how has the winter season been? I mean, have
Yeah, so
you?
we've definitely seen a huge demand and the need for shelters for folks. We are lucky enough that the city provides funding when nights are below 32 degrees to open a few other emergency shelters with the Homeless Alliance and Salvation Army. But anytime it's above that, we see a huge demand in folks trying to find some sort of shelter for the night. And sadly, we can't meet all of that need that is there. So we have a lot of partnerships with the Homeless Alliance and Salvation Army and other shelters in the city, such as City Rescue Mission, to try and to connect them with those places if we're unable to house them or give them shelter for the night here.
Yeah, and I think they've postponed the count a couple of times as far as the
Yeah,
night count for checking the streets where we go in and have a group of volunteers that actually count how many people are on the streets in one given night, 1 or 2 nights. And so I don't know, have you heard any updated numbers
we
from
don't
that?
have any updated numbers. That the point in time count has not been done since 2020, but we actually just did it last Thursday.
Hmm.
Um, we had about 200 volunteers from different service providers all get together and go out to the camps as well as to the shelters and any other service provider to try and get a count of the folks in the city. I don't expect to see those numbers for at least a couple more months as they go through and analyze the data that we did collect. But I think it's a pretty understood belief that the homelessness situation in Oklahoma City and around the country since COVID-19 has increased significantly. There's been some estimated numbers of 40% increase last year in the number of homeless unsheltered. So we probably would expect to see another rise like that this year. But we won't have data for a few more months.
So what happens when you're full to capacity and Salvation Army, Homeless Alliance, and even City Rescue has been participating in housing? When they're full, what happens to people who can't get into a facility? Are they just?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, we try to do as much as we can, but there's a point where it's unsafe for the building to have that many people in it, as well as um, we have a capacity, right? We want to be able to help as many people as we can, but there's the reality that there are times when folks do have to sleep outside. We try to provide them with warm clothing that we get donated to us and give them hand warmers and stuff like that to try and reduce the severity of the situation. But it's a sad reality of the homeless situation here in Oklahoma City and around the country that there are times when folks come and ask for help and we aren't able to provide it for them. We try to do everything we can to help them, but there's times where we aren't able to, and that's
Yeah, that's the tragedy
yeah,
of the fact and the reason why we rely so heavily on the collaboration between other nonprofits and other agencies and the United Way and different ones
absolutely,
that help our community um, shore up some of the infrastructure to
absolutely.
support this population. And, on the upward transition side, we help our go-to strength is getting their identification because
Yeah,
I hear 70% of the people that are homeless don't have ID, so they can't get a job, they can't get social services.
absolutely.
So we all kind of focus on our core strengths and try to collaborate with one another through a referral network. So
Yeah.
uh, we're very happy to work with City Care and appreciate all the work that you do there
Yeah,
at
you guys are a lifeline for me specifically with my role as a low barrier homeless shelter. We don't require folks to have an ID or to have any of the documentation that you would expect someone to have. So without your guys' support and your guys' ability to help me, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm able to do here at the shelter. So many of the services that are available that I can offer folks require them to have that ID, and if they don't have that and they don't have their birth certificate, it's a difficult process, and you guys give them a chance to get a hold of that. So we really appreciate you guys doing that for us.
Yeah, well, same here. We appreciate you. So tell me briefly what a day or a night in the facility at City Care is like. What
Yeah.
happens?
So we are closed for a little bit during the daytime to allow us time to deep clean the building, which is part of the things that we included. in our plans for COVID. So every day we deeply sanitize the building and clean everything in it. And then we open the shelter at 4 p.m. for families, give them a chance to come into the building before the single adults enter, as well as it gives us a little bit of time to meet with them and see what things we need to begin working on, or check in to see how things are going for them and their goals for themselves personally. And then at 6 p.m. every night, we open the shelter to the single adults, in which we have a pretty quick check-in process with a security check. And then folks have free reign to the building, where we have our kitchen and our dining room and patio for them to hang out in, as well as the dorms that they have free reign of until about 10 o'clock, when we have a lights out. And then they have the night to stay in the building, obviously. And then in the morning at 7 a.m., we ask our single adults to head to either the day shelter or somewhere else within the community for the day. And then the families get to leave around at 8 o'clock and go take their kids to school or go to work or whatever that is. But a night at the shelter is honestly pretty simple. People come here to sleep and to have a place to rest and shower and take care of all that kind of stuff. So we don't have a real daytime schedule by any means, and it's a lot of sleeping and relaxing and trying to take a minute to be in a warm space, so.
Mm-hmm. Do you have many disturbances or anything like that within the population? I mean, do you have any issues?
Yeah, I mean, you throw 140 people into a building, there's going to be some butting heads, of course.
Yeah.
We expect that to happen, and it's something that does happen quite often, but it is just kind of a reality of having this many people in a building and this many people that's main focus is just trying to survive. Right. We don't expect any of them to be completely of right mind and to be in any sort of state where de-escalating a situation occurs. And that's what we're here to do, is to provide them with a safe space and do the best that we can to de-escalate a situation if something does occur. But they do occur on occasion.
Do you see, I mean, aside from homelessness, what is the greatest need? Do you think it's mental health? Is it physical health? Like many of them aren't able to take care.
Yeah, specifically for our community here at the shelter, it's kind of a good mixture of both, a lot of substance abuse and a lot of mental health issues. We have a lot of our guests have severe mental health issues, which is something that's just a reality of existing in a homeless system.
Yeah.
And being on the streets. If you're not struggling with mental health, you probably will by the time that you've made it out of homelessness. But we do the best we can to be understanding and be aware that everyone is going to be at a certain level of comfortableness within our building, as well as just being around other people. And that's something we expect to encounter, and we do our best to help accommodate any of their needs.
So we're nearing the time of our end for our conversation. So I just wanted to be sure and let you share a client story. We love to end our little broadcast on a positive note with, a successful client story that we've experienced, and that's the kind of rewards that even those who work in this area of the nonprofit community and working with this population, you love it when you see someone make that choice to go ahead and get their life together. So,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Here at the shelter, we've had quite a few opportunities to experience and see someone come out of their situation in a much more positive light. A story that comes to mind is one of the families when the shelter first opened that moved in with us. She had a 14-year-old girl and was pregnant when she came into the shelter with us. She was here probably almost 4 months before we were able to get her housed, but in that time she had her baby. And we had some really great opportunities to help her celebrate that. And she came into the building after coming out of the hospital to a room full of baby toys and all of the things she could need, and a bunch of people that she had met while being here in the shelter that all came to celebrate, including our staff members and some of our guests. And she became really close with another one of the families that was staying with us. And they now live next door to each other in one of our permanent supportive housing units in West Lawn. And they see each other every day and are eating lunch together and having a great time and really starting to thrive outside of our community, but while still being such a big integral part of it. And I think every day they stop by and say hello just to check to see how we're doing and seeing what's going on. And we get to see their lives grow and change and develop as the little one and her kind of go out on their own and are no longer needing our support. But it's really cool to see families like that and other single individuals also find housing, if that's on their own or if it's in some sort of permanent supportive housing, to get to see them come out of here. And I like to say to them a lot of times when they do leave that I hope I never see you again, and I hope it's for a good reason. So that's kind of the cool thing about what we do is when I'm doing my job right, it means that I never have to see them again unless it's for a good reason. So
that's a beautiful story, and I can't imagine how rewarding it is to see somebody's life bloom, like literally bloom like that, and succeed and get on their own and become self-sustaining. And we as a community are so fortunate to have your organization as within the network that helps this population and those that are really the most vulnerable ones amongst us in our community. So again, I just want to thank you, Ian, for being a guest on our little broadcast today, and appreciate everything that City Care does. And we love working in partnership with City Care. And I always love learning. I learn something, like I said, every day. Every time I talk to somebody from your organization, I learn something new that I didn't know before. So thank you again for everything you guys do, and thank you for being a part of today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. All right, we'll tell everybody so long, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.